Well, good evening, everyone. In the spirit of reconciliation, P&C Federation acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. And we pay our respect to their elders past and present, and we extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So welcome everyone to our webinar tonight, Applying for Year 5 Opportunity School Placement. My name is Natalie Walker and I'm the President of the New South Wales P&C Federation, and I'll be facilitating tonight's webinar. P&C Federation is putting on tonight's webinar with the New South Wales Department of Education to provide parents and carers information about applying for Year 5 opportunity classes, and also so you can ask any questions that you may have of the staff here from the Department of Education. Many of you will already have submitted your questions for the panel, but you can ask questions tonight through the Q&A option on the bottom of your screen. So please use your vote up option if you do have a similar question. We will try to get through as many questions as we can tonight. In regards to the Q&A, please don't use it for commentary, just use the chat for that. And we do have staff from P&C Federation and the Department of Education here tonight behind the scenes to assist with the Q&A and chat. Please remember that when you are writing in the chat and Q&A, that you do ensure you use respectful communication. Comments must be respectful, appropriate, consistent with the school community charter, and neither discriminatory nor damaging to any person's reputation. Please don't name individuals or schools in your comments. Also, any damaging or disrespectful comments made by others should not be liked, endorsed, or shared by them with others. If you would like to activate the live transcript for this webinar, please go to the icon at the bottom of your screen and click on Enable Auto Transcription. So I have the pleasure tonight to introduce our presenters and our panellists. So this evening with us, we have leading the presentation tonight will be Magna Pollock, Leader of the Selective Education Unit with the New South Wales Department of Education. And also with her on the panel tonight, we have Lily Barclay, as a Manager for Opportunity Class Placement, Selective Education Unit, New South Wales Department of Education. Joanne McMillan, Senior Education Officer, Selective Education Unit, New South Wales Department of Education. And we have Sky Bauer, Disability Placement Officer with the Selective Education Unit in the New South Wales Department of Education. So I'd now like to just hand over to Magna to start a presentation for you all tonight. Thank you, Magna.
Thanks so much, Natalie. And welcome everyone. It's great to be here with you. Tonight we'll be talking about opportunity classes in the following ways. We'll cover what they are and what their benefits are. We'll give you tips for choosing schools. We'll tell you a bit about the equity placement model, and we'll tell you in fair detail about how to submit your online application. Next slide, please. We'll also talk about reasonable adjustments for disability. We will talk to you about how to prepare your child for the test, what if something goes wrong on the day, how we will let you know about the outcome, what you can do to appeal, and then there'll be contact information and questions. Now, we also have had pre-submitted questions that are in front of us, and as far as we can, if they are questions that relate to what we are talking about, we will consider those to have been answered. If we don't cover some of those, we'll come back at the question session and we'll answer those as far as we can. So without further ado, let's dive into it. And let's have a look at what are opportunity classes and what are their benefits. Next slide, please. So opportunity classes cater for high potential and intellectually gifted students in years 5 and 6. There are 76 opportunity classes in New South Wales public schools. They're all around the state, including an online class at Aurora College, the virtual opportunity class. The learning environment in opportunity classes is designed to meet the unique educational, social and well-being needs of high potential and gifted learners. So it's trying to cater for those students who would normally have to wait and not be catered for so easily in a normal classroom. They are, however, separate from enrichment programs. We often get asked the question, my school has an enrichment program, how is that different from OC? And they are separate because most public schools run enrichment programs of some kind for their high achieving and gifted students, for the ones that are actually enrolled in their schools. And they use their enrichment techniques for the section of the class that can benefit them. But because opportunity classes can recruit from their surrounding areas, they can group the whole class by ability. And the more students at that peer group, at that ability level there are, the more they provide a challenging and supportive environment for each other. But you must be aware that if your child is already thriving at school and is engaged with learning and socially with peer relationships, it's probably unnecessary for them to go through the process of changing to an opportunity class. It's horses for courses, and parents need to be very mindful of the fact that one size does not fit all. Next slide, please. So what do they do that is different in these classes? Well, they can use teaching methods that allow students to move through the curriculum at a faster pace. I was very surprised a few years ago to find out there was a Wollongong University study that showed that not only can very gifted students accept their learning at a faster pace, but that they actually needed to do so. It needs to come to them to keep them engaged much more quickly. So an opportunity class can do that. They can explore concepts in greater depth and with greater complexity. Everyone who's had a gifted child knows exactly how deeply they dive into dinosaurs or venomous snakes or whatever their interest is, and they read everything about it. They are allowed to do that in this sort of class and encouraged to do so. And of course, the fact that they are all of the same or similar academic and social peer level makes it so much more supportive and challenging. But we must note that the curriculum is still the same. There is no special curriculum that applies to these students. It's just that the way they can access that curriculum is so much more tailored to their needs. Next slide, please. So they can do, there's a whole lot of differentiated learning that can go on in opportunity classes. There's of course enrichment and extension, but there can also be acceleration. I think one of the questions was, is it possible to accelerate and go into an opportunity class? It depends on the student. If the student has been accelerated and is still right at the top of their functioning and needs more stimulation and a higher level of learning, then certainly acceleration is appropriate. However, the school really is consulted by the selection committee on acceleration, and it really depends very much on how supportive the school is to those ideas. These students work with higher order thinking skills. They're much better at analysing, synthesising and evaluating information, and they do a lot of that in this sort of class. They are encouraged to do independent, open-ended tasks and independent learning. And of course, they work really well in groups involving project or problem-based tasks. Next slide, please. Being in a class like this supports their social development and well-being. They develop meaningful friendships with like-minded classmates. They feel supported and part of a group. Not unusual. In fact, any parent-teacher gathering I have ever attended where they ask a student who has already been in the class to talk, we hear the same thing. The child often says, "At last I find myself with people who are like me." So they feel supported and part of a group. And sometimes these students can be very isolated in a comprehensive classroom. They can be academically challenged and inspired, and that, of course, also supports their well-being. So now, because I don't want you to hear me for the whole process, I'm handing you over to Lily, who is the manager of the Opportunity Class placement part of our team. So she will speak to you about tips for choosing a school. Can we have the next slide, please? Over to you, Lily.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to now give you tips on how to best choose a school with an opportunity class for your child. Next slide, please. As Magda mentioned, there are 76 primary schools with opportunity classes across New South Wales, which offer Year 5 vacancies, and they are located in metropolitan, regional, rural and remote locations. 45 of these opportunity classes are located in the metropolitan Sydney area, and 30 are located in rural and remote locations, as well as regional locations. And of course, we have Aurora College, which is the virtual opportunity class, which is available to rural and remote students who attend an authorised host school. I'll talk to you about Aurora in a moment. But these opportunity classes may have 15, 30 or 60 vacancies, with Aurora College offering around 100 places. I believe one of the pre-submitted questions was, how do I find out how many vacancies a particular school with an opportunity class has? This is available on our website. You just look at the web page, which has the full list of opportunity classes, and it'll tell you next to it, each school, how many vacancies are available for that particular school. What I did want to point out, though, is that there's the schools with opportunity classes that only offer 15 places actually have composite opportunity classes, so they combine their Year 5 and 6 students. Overall, we generally receive around 15,000 applications for the 1,840 vacancies that we have available statewide. Next slide, please. So where are they located? On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the metropolitan Sydney area, all the schools and where they're located. On the right-hand side are the physical locations of the rural, regional and remote schools that we offer. And I'll talk more about Aurora very shortly. Next slide, please. So Aurora College, this is the virtual opportunity class that we have for our rural and remote students. These particular students don't have access to opportunity classes, a physical opportunity class in their area. So that's why they're offered this virtual provision. And students successfully placed at Aurora College still attend their local primary school, but they join the opportunity class virtually to do lessons in mathematics, science and technology using an online conferencing system. And only students who will be enrolled in Year 5 in one of the 600 authorised host schools in a rural or remote area are eligible for placement at Aurora College. A full list of the 600 authorised host schools is available on our website. Next slide, please. So things to consider. Well, you can choose up to 2 schools for your child to be considered for opportunity class placement. But you really do need to make sure that the schools that you do choose are suitable for your child. Consider your child's needs and friendship groups. Consider how far away the school is located from your place of residence. Remember, the students are only 10 years of age, so you do not want your child travelling long distances to get to and from school. The selection committee does not consider distance, travelling times or transport arrangements when they're offering places. So we ask that you really do your research before selecting your choices, but we also ask that you consider your child's preference when deciding which schools you would like your child to be considered. Next slide, please. So visiting the school's website, social media, or even reading the school newsletters that they have online will give you an idea about what the school has to offer. While placement in an opportunity class is based on academic merit, your children may have other interests which are important to them. For example, if you have a child that really loves to play a musical instrument, you can check out the school's website to find out a little bit more about the programs that they have to offer and whether they have a band program or a music program. So really do spend some time doing some research before making those choices. Next slide, please. So when you are selecting your choices in the application, it is really important about how you order those choices, because where students qualify for both their choices, they will only be offered their very first choice of school. And you can't change your school choices after the placement outcome is released. So it's important that you do your research and choose the schools in the order that you most want. Schools don't select students on whether their school was chosen first or not. The selections for each school are based on the academic merit of students who applied for that school. While we're talking about school choices, even when you lodge your application, you can change your school choices without any problem right up until the 6th of August. So if you're not quite sure of the choices you want to make at first, when you first lodge your application, you have plenty of time to do your research, and then you can update your choices as long as it's before the 6th of August, 2023. Thank you. Next slide, please.
And that's back to me. The equity placement model. This is something that has come about because of the review that happened in 2018, the review of selective access, which was a very, it came up with some recommendations about how to make the process more equitable. If we can get the next slide, please. So the equity model makes it fairer for the following underrepresented groups. So students from low socio-educational advantage backgrounds are part of our equity placement. Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander students, students from rural and remote locations, and students with disability. I'll go into that in greater detail in a minute. But eligibility for each equity group is based on data held by the department. It's not a process where a parent asks for a student to be put onto these equity groups. The department uses a whole lot of data available to it to determine who is part of these equity groups. The application process remains the same for all candidates. Next slide, please. So this is how it breaks down. When you consider 100% of places available, and we're talking about 15 in some schools, as Lily said, 30 in others, and in a few we're talking about 60 places. So when you consider those as 100%, then within that we've got up to 20% of places in each opportunity class held for students from these groups. And the way that works is that students from low socio-educational advantage backgrounds take up 10%. These places are available to those students. And I have to make that distinction. I'll continue and show you the four categories, but then I'll come back to what that really means in terms of actual students on those lists. Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander students, 5% of that that school's vacancies. Rural and remote students 2.5%, and students with disability 2.5% as well. So the equity, the way equity works is that students can be considered with slightly lower scores than the top 75% of students on that school's list. So we go 10% below that, or the selection committee goes 10% below that, and those students within the 10% in those equity groups are also offered placement according to those percentages of places held. So, however, if there aren't as many students as we have vacancies in those equity groups, those places will revert back to the main section, and we'll continue to go down the reserve list of the main section for those unfilled places. So as the equity placement model becomes more and more familiar and available and known to the public, I think we'll be getting more applications from students within those equity groups, and we'll be able to fill them in a greater way. This is really only the first year or so. The last year was the first year it was implemented, and we didn't get so many applications that we could fill all of the vacancies in those equity groups. But we're hoping that gets better and better as the years go on. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I said, we've got this 75% of places which are the main pool. And this has always been the way. A parent applies for this particular school. The students are ranked for that particular school, and down we go to 75% of the available places, and those students get first round offers. Then we fill the next 20% of places with the equity group students, if we have sufficient of them. And then if we have more than sufficient of them, we form reserve lists in those equity groups as well. So reserve lists are no longer one big list. They are lists that apply to the main group and each separate equity group. So if somebody was offered a place in an equity pool, let's say the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander one, but they declined, then there'll be a reserve list. There we can go down to the next student and offer the place to them. And it's only when we exhaust the whole reserve list for that equity group that then we'll revert that place back to the main pool. And that leaves us with 5% of places. And those go to students who are unable to sit the test. And those are students who have had illness on the day, or they were interstate or overseas and unable to come back in time. And those students are considered as a group, and only 5% of places are available for those students. And that works in the same way. If our 5% of places are filled and nobody declines, that's it. If they're not filled, and we have no reserve list, then those places also go back to the main pool. So it's kind of a hierarchy, as you can see in the diagram. The red represents the main pool, the blue the equity students, and the small green area are the students who are unable to sit the test. The takeaway message from that is, unless the child is really ill or has something that is transmissible to other students, it's always better to try and sit the test than not, because you have a better chance of sitting the test, putting in an illness misadventure request, which Joanne will talk about, and being compensated for that. That's always better. So I'll now hand you back to Lily.
And now I have the pleasure of telling you how to lodge your application. And before I go any further, everything that you hear tonight as part of this presentation, a lot of this information is available on our website. So please do spend time visiting our website to find out even more information about each of the things that we're talking about this evening. So to lodge an application, you go directly to the URL shown on the next slide. It's the education.nsw.gov.au/OC. That's the quick way of getting to our website. And on that website, you will find the Apply Now button, and you can lodge your application from midnight tomorrow morning all the way up to 11:59 p.m. on the 15th of May. We do ask that you apply by the due date because late applications are generally not accepted. And generally, the application should only take you around 10 minutes to complete. So hopefully you'll be able to get onto it straight away and it will not take you very long. Next slide, please. Now, before you actually apply, it's really vital that you do read the document titled Information for Applicants, because this document provides you with all the information that you need about the placement process and all the key dates. All the information is available on the department's website as well, as I mentioned before. But I do refer you to pages 4 and 5 of this particular document because it does give you an overview of each stage of the placement process and the key dates associated with each stage. What I suggest is that you, if you can, print those 2 particular pages and stick them on your fridge so that you can refer to it regularly throughout the placement process. Next slide, please. So once you do click on that Apply Now button, you will be asked to register using your personal email address. And we ask you to use your own email address and not your child's. And you'll be asked to create a password. Now, the reason we ask to communicate only with your personal, with your email address is because we only correspond with parents. We do not correspond with students. Once you've registered, you'll receive an email asking you to verify your email address. And then as soon as you've verified your email address, you'll be prompted to log in using the email and the password that you set so that you can then start creating your application. Now, if you've registered for a child for a previous selective or opportunity class process, for example, you might have a child that sat through this last year, you can use the same email address and password to log into the application dashboard. And there's no need for a new registration. But if you did forget the password, you can easily reset it as well. Next slide, please. Now, once you've logged in, you'll be able to create your application and you'll be asked for these sorts of things. You'll be asked for your child's name, date of birth, the year of study, the school that your child attends. You'll also be asked to list your 2 choices, whether your child has a disability, medical condition or behavioural disorder, whether any adjustments are required. You will also be asked about your residency status, as all students must be Australian or New Zealand citizens or permanent residents of Australia to be able to enrol in an opportunity class. And you'll also be asked if there are any court orders, as well as your own contact details. Once you've completed the application, you must sign the tick boxes and the declaration and press the submit button. We really do ask you to check very carefully that you have pressed that button. We have parents who have completed right up until that very last page of the application, but then failed to hit that submit button. So please do press that submit button and you'll know that you've done it successfully because you'll receive a confirmation email and message in your dashboard. Next slide, please. Now, when you have a look at your dashboard, and if you have submitted your application successfully, you'll see a green button showing submitted. If it hasn't been submitted successfully, you'll see the orange button which says not submitted. Once you have submitted your application, though, you can log back in any time. You can review the information you've entered. You can make any changes or add documents. You can send and receive messages about your application. And of course, you can reset your password if you've forgotten it. But each time you do make a change in the application dashboard, any change to your child's application, you'll be prompted to press the submit button again so that the changes take effect. Next slide, please. The best part of this application dashboard is that it provides this messaging system. So this is the way that you and us can communicate and correspond with one another. All you need to do is click in your dashboard, the plus button that says new message, and you can ask us the question that you wish to have answered by one of our team. And we generally answer those questions on a daily basis, and we try our best at peak times to answer the questions as soon as we can. So please use that messaging system. If you cannot get the answer from the information on the website and you need something specific to be communicated, please use that messaging feature. It's fantastic and has been very, very helpful for many parents who use it. Next slide, please, and I'll hand over now to Sky.
Good evening. My name is Sky Bauer. I'm the Disability Placement Officer. So I'm in charge of arranging reasonable adjustments for the test. Next slide, please. So what are reasonable adjustments? Reasonable adjustments are practical arrangements designed to respond to a student's disability or medical condition to enable the student to access the test on the same basis as students without disability. And this is in line with the disability standards. If your child has a disability or medical condition, we strongly encourage you to include this information in your application form so that we can support your child during the test. Information about disability cannot be used to disadvantage a child during the placement process. It is used to arrange reasonable adjustments for the test. So when you are completing your application form, you will be asked, does your child have a disability, medical or behavioural condition? If you select yes to this question, then you will be able to request reasonable adjustments. If you select no at this point, the form will not proceed to the section that allows you to request adjustments. So it is very important to select yes to this question. It is also important that you do let us know about disability at the time of application, because we can't guarantee that we will be able to provide adjustments that are requested after the 19th of May. Next slide, please. These are just a few examples of adjustments that can be arranged: specific seating, modified test materials, permission to use a blood monitoring device for students with diabetes, use of an FM system to assist with hearing, or allocation to a test centre with wheelchair access. Now, regarding modified test materials, it is a paper-based test and standard test papers are printed in Arial font size 12. The large print options that are available are published on our website, and they include font size N18, 24 and 36, and they can be printed on either A4 or A3 paper. It's helpful to be specific with your requests about font size, and we really need to be told about requirements for large print at the time of application, because it's not something that can be arranged at the last minute. If your child uses an FM system for hearing, it's also important to note this in the application form so that we can make arrangements to get it set up with the invigilator on the morning of the test. If your child's vision is corrected by wearing glasses only, then there's no need to indicate this as disability. We would like to know if your child has asthma, but again, there's no need to request permission to bring an inhaler or a spacer into the test room. If a student turns up to the test with an asthma inhaler or with glasses, they will automatically be allowed to bring them in. Supporting evidence. When you request adjustments, you are asked to confirm that these adjustments are currently provided at school. And you also have an option to upload documentary evidence, such as reports from medical or health professionals. These need to be uploaded to your application by the 19th of May. If you are in the process of investigating disability and you're still waiting on a report, please still indicate disability on the application form. You can make a note of it in the free text field in the application that you're awaiting documentation. And then you'll be able to send in the documentation by attaching it to a message through your application dashboard. Now, adjustments are most likely to be approved when they have been in place on an ongoing basis for assessment and learning at school. Finally, parents will be advised if adjustments have been arranged for your child approximately 2 weeks prior to the test, around the time that you receive your test authority letter. So now I'm going to hand back over to Lily Barclay, who will discuss how to prepare for the test.
Thanks. Next slide, please. So the Opportunity Class Placement Test, it's on Thursday, the 27th of July, 2023. Big day for the students. Please make a special note on your home calendar. The children are expected to be at the designated test centre by 9 o'clock on that day. But let's find out a little bit more about what this test is. It's a test that's written by Cambridge University Press and Assessment, and it's been specifically designed to discriminate very high performing students. It's also designed to assess the academic ability of students or their potential, and not their performance on the curriculum or the lessons they have learnt. So as shown on the slide, it is not an assessment of syllabus content delivered at school. However, it does not contain mathematical concepts outside of the Stage 2 syllabus. For example, students don't need to know formal algebra. So this is why none of the tests are based on the syllabus, although care is taken to avoid questions which require subject skills that students have not yet been taught. So let's break it down a little bit more. So if we go to the next slide, please. The students sit 3 tests in this following order: reading, mathematical reasoning, and thinking skills. And then for each test, students will receive a question paper and a corresponding answer sheet on which they record their answers. So the questions in the reading test are based on different text types, which include fiction, non-fiction, poetry, magazine articles, traditional tales, and the like. And with the mathematical reasoning test, rather than a formal assessment of curriculum content, as mentioned before, students really use the mathematical skills that they know to answer and solve problems and questions. In terms of the thinking skills, this involves the use of verbal, non-verbal, and numerical reasoning skills to answer questions where no prior knowledge is assumed. Next slide, please. So let's have a look at the test format. So as I mentioned, 3 separate tests. The reading, they're all multiple choice, the types of questions. So for reading, the students answer 25 questions in 30 minutes, 35 questions in 40 minutes for maths, mathematical reasoning, and 30 questions in 30 minutes for the thinking skills test. So next slide, please. Let's think about how we can best prepare our children to sit the test. There are many things that parents can do to help familiarise their child with the test process that does not involve coaching. As you know, the department does not endorse coaching. However, some prior preparation can greatly reduce student anxiety around sitting the test. So there are many sample test papers and past test papers currently sitting on our website, which will help familiarise students with the format of the test and the types of questions they may be asked. So practicing time management can greatly assist children, and practice answering the sample multiple choice tests available on the department's website in a timed environment will really help students with their test technique. Our students can also practice recording their answers using the sample answer sheets on the website. So they can get their pencil and shade the circles and have that sort of practice so that they can really build up and be ready, feel more ready when they sit the test. Next slide, please. So please make sure your child knows not to spend too much time on one question. So no marks are deducted for any incorrect answers, but if a child doesn't know a particular question, we do encourage they take a guess at least. No marks are deducted for incorrect answers. Just ensure that they understand that. It's important that they exercise, continue to socialise with their friends, and really do get a good night's sleep before the night of the test to help them manage their anxiety. It's normal for a child to feel very anxious before the test. They are going to a designated test centre to sit the test, maybe in an unfamiliar environment. So there are all those other factors that they need to take into consideration. And the best we can do is just encourage them to do their very best on the day. Please note that performance on past test papers and practice tests are not predictors of success for the 2023 test. And the other thing that we would like parents to be really mindful of is that attending school is the best way to prepare for the test. And students with too many unjustified absences from school will be brought to the attention of the selection committee, as the selection committee is reluctant to offer placement to those whose attendance might not allow them to fully benefit from an OC program. Next slide, please. So when the children are allocated to a test centre to go and sit the test on the 27th of July this year, they are usually allocated alongside with their peers from their primary school. So other students that are from their school who have an application, they will all go and sit the test together at their designated high school, usually in a public high school are these test centres. Now, parents, you'll be notified of your child's test centre 2 weeks before the test, as Skye mentioned. And this information is made available in your application dashboard. You'll be told exactly where your child will need to sit the test. There will be an address of the school of where your child will need to be at 9 o'clock on that day. You'll also receive a test authority letter in the application dashboard, which you will need to download and print, because your child will need to take that test authority letter with him or her to the test centre. This is what allows the invigilators at the test centre know that your child has authority to sit the test. You'll also receive an information bulletin about the test, what the children need to bring, some last minute tips, just some information about how children can show their answers with other support resources, with links to our website where your child can get some additional preparation. And please note that parents, you are responsible for taking your child to and from the test centre. Now, I did mention earlier that they need to be at the test centre by 9 in the morning. The test should be completed by around midday, by 12 o'clock. So you would then go and pick your child up. And it would be expected that you take your child back to school. Not that many will want to go back to school after doing a big test like that, but they are expected to return to school for the remainder of the day. Next slide, please. And now I'm handing over to Joanne.
Thank you, Lily. What if something goes wrong on test day? This is information we really hope you don't need, but every year, unfortunately, something does go wrong for a small number of students. Next slide, please. The things that go wrong are usually some kind of illness or misadventure that either was very serious and prevented your child from sitting the test, or your child sat the test, but their performance was affected and they couldn't do their best. As you can see, you have 5 days to submit a request via your application dashboard. And we do need you to provide documentary evidence to support that request. As much as we'd like to be able to take your word for it, we can't. Illness applies if your child was ill or injured or had a medical condition. And in those cases, you'll need to provide at least a medical certificate that covers the test date. If your child is absent from the test, a more detailed report from a doctor is also needed. Misadventure applies if the problem relates to an incident or circumstances. And examples might be the recent death of a member of the immediate family, a traffic accident on the way to the test, or disruption at the test centre. And the documentary evidence required for these situations will vary from case to case. The selection committee does expect that most students will sit for the test. And it may be better to do this and make an illness misadventure request afterwards. But as Magda pointed out, if your child is seriously ill or if they have a contagious disease, they should not sit for the test. There is, of course, that problem that only 5% of places are available for students who miss the test. If the selection committee accepts your request, it'll make decisions about considering alternate evidence of academic merit for your child. The selection committee usually don't accept reasons for missing the test, such as playing sport, attending a camp, going on a holiday, or just the parent forgetting that the test was on. Next slide, please. Malpractice. This is a bit of a nasty one because another word for it is cheating. And the message here is to tell your children not to. We do understand that children can resort to malpractice in times of stress, if they feel overwhelmed, if they're afraid of failure, or they don't want to disappoint their parents or their teachers. But the consequences are severe. They will not be eligible for placement. And you can read the examples for yourselves here. The first two are probably the most common, but it's not just a case of students being observed during these things. Malpractice is also identified through a statistical analysis of patterns of responses between students seated near each other at test centres. And receiving news that your child has been associated with malpractice can be very upsetting. You really don't want to be the parent getting that letter. You can appeal a malpractice decision if you get one. I'll now hand over to Magda to talk about outcomes.
Thank you, Joanne. So after the test, there is a selection committee process. We haven't really stressed how that works, but there is a committee of a number of different sorts of people, principals and directors of educational learning, and they meet to select the students for each of the schools over a period of about 3 days. So it's quite an intensive process, and they decide based on scores and equity placement and so on, who are going to get the offers, and then we're ready to post the outcome. Next slide, please. So your outcome notification will come into your application dashboard, and it will say a number of things which I will go through in a minute, but it will also be accompanied in most cases by a performance report. This performance report, we have examples of it on our website, and you can go into it in greater detail. But what it gives you is a banding. It'll tell you that there are, for example, your child has achieved in the top 10% of all students who took the reading test. And so that for the sample student you're seeing on the screen, there's that little red dot at the top 10% mark, and that shows that your child has done pretty well in the reading test. This particular student came in the top 25% of students who sat the test. So that little blue marker for maths is in that second set of the banding. Then there's another 25%. There's nobody in that third banding in this particular example, but if you were to find your child there, that would show that he was in the top 50% of students who sat the test, and this particular student was in the bottom 50% of students who sat the test. Well, you can be right at the top of that bottom 50%, or anywhere in between. Your little circle is not going to show where in the band you are. It'll just show in the middle of the band each time, just to show that your child is somewhere in the band. Next slide, please. So the outcome of your application can be that you are offered a place at your first choice or at your second choice, and you could be on a reserve list for the first choice or unsuccessful for the first choice. So that would just mean one outcome for you. Your child could be placed on a reserve list for either one or both of your school choices, which means you've got a nail-biting time for a while we go through the declines and make new offers, or you'll get an outcome which says that your child has been unsuccessful for both choices, and that's the end of that particular process for you. So the parents who have a child with an offer or a reserve list have further information to provide to us. So next slide, please. If you receive an offer, you'll get a due date, and you must accept or decline it by the due date. You go back into your dashboard and you press either accept or decline if you get an offer. Some people might want to decline if they get their second choice offer, but they know the child's on the reserve list for the first choice. You might want to decline your second choice and wait. But at the time you're given your first round offers, you can accept your second choice and still wait on the reserve list until a particular date, which I will discuss in a second. So the next thing, those people who have reserve listings, we try to assist you to do some planning. And the only way we can is to look at the previous year's performance of that position on the reserve list. So let's say you're in band A. Well, any student who was in that band last year got an offer in the first month after the outcomes came out. So that gives you a bit of a clue that if this year follows last year, you might get an offer, and if you are going to get an offer, it won't be too far in the future. But however, we can't guarantee it. I mean, every year something different could happen in a particular area. a non-government school could start up, and that might take more students away from our process, and therefore we'll go faster through the reserve list. Or there could be a bit of an economic recession, and people who might have declined will accept. So there can be no guarantee, but we just try to help a little bit by telling you that wherever your child is on that reserve list, this is what happened last year. So if you get a B, then that means the child would have got an offer last year in the second month after the outcomes came out, and C the third month, and so on. So that's how we work. And the last one, E, means that they didn't get an offer by the time school started. So if your child's on a reserve list and also has an offer, as I said, you can accept the offer, but you can only stay on the reserve list until the 18th of January 2024. At that time, you will see if the child is, and we actually tell you on our website what we are up to as far as reserve bands that we're offering at the moment. So you'll be able to go to our website. If your child is, say, on a reserve band C, you're close to that 18th of January, you're wondering whether it's worth your while to decline your firm offer to stay on a reserve list, and we tell you that we are now only on band A, that gives you a bit of a clue that you're probably not going to get an offer and you should stay with your second choice. So that's how that works. But as I say, every year there could be slight variations to that. Now, we continue to make offers to students on the reserve lists as vacancies occur until the end of term 1, 2025. So if suddenly somebody gets transferred to another state and has to take their child out of the opportunity class, the school alerts us and we make an offer to the next student on the reserve list. So that reserve list stays live for a year and a term. So that's pretty a long-term process. So I'll hand you back to Joanne with the next slide, which is the appeals.
Thank you, Magda. After you receive your outcome, you may appeal if you think you have valid grounds. Next slide, please. The first part here might look very much the same as the illness misadventure information. However, there is a difference, and this relates back to the last point that was on our illness misadventure slide. You can't appeal about something that should have been an illness misadventure request. So to appeal, you've got to have documentary evidence that there were extenuating circumstances that prevented you from submitting an illness misadventure request. An example of a valid appeal might be the recent diagnosis of a medical condition that was unknown at the time of the test. So there's a long list on our website of invalid grounds. So they include things like being disappointed with the outcome, travel convenience if you had received an offer, being with brothers and sisters who are already at that school, or other benefits to the family. And you also can't appeal on the basis that you believe your child will have qualified for a different school that wasn't one of your choices. Now, unfortunately, there are times when an appeal can be valid, but there's no adjustment that can be made, or there's no alternative evidence of academic merit that is going to change the outcome. And as you can see there, you've got 5 days to submit that appeal after you get your outcome. Next slide, please. So to finish, we just have a few contact details. Next slide. So we've got an email address, which is usually used before you apply. After applying, as we've already said, it's best to communicate with us through the messaging facility on the application dashboard. You can also ring that telephone number if you would like to speak to one of us. And we also have a Facebook page. And I think I'll hand over now to Natalie to talk to us about the questions.
Thanks, Joanne. And look, we sort of run out of time, everyone. But I think we've actually got through most of the questions that had come through the presentation, which is fantastic. And I know that Rosalind and Mark behind the scenes have been going into the Q&A and answering all the questions coming through, which has been fantastic. So thank you for that. I do have one question, and I thought we just might try and answer just before we go, because I think it's really important. So Iona's just asked, have the classroom teachers employed for OC classes had specific training for gifted and talented?
In many cases they do a course. There can be short courses. There are courses run by the University of New South Wales, and many OC teachers go through that sort of process. Others can be appointed with a special interest in having taught gifted and talented students in other settings, but they often also go off and get extra qualifications, and that's usually how it's done.
Great, thanks, Magda. And apologies, everyone, if we didn't get your question, but like I said, I think just looking at some of the questions coming through the Q&A and through the presentation, we've really touched on quite a lot of information. And I think, to Magda's point, there was another question there. I know that people were sort of feeling, do we sit the test? Can we pull out? Or, if it's not working out for our child, can they go back to their normal school? And I think that's really great, Magda. You were just mentioning that just at the end, that, that is available, and there are reserve lists for people then can take that place. So hopefully that, allows you not to feel too pressured in that, and just to allow the process just to go through and to enjoy that. But thank you, Magda, Lily, Joanne and Sky, for taking the time to just speak with our members and provide some really, I think, important information for our families to support their decision-making regarding the educational opportunities in New South Wales public schools. We always get such a great turnout of people wanting to register and find out information about OC classes. So we really do appreciate that. And we thank just the staff behind the scenes, as I said, Eugene, Alison, Mark and Rosalind, have done so much to help put this all together for everyone tonight. So thank you so much. And for you all attending tonight, thank you for sharing your evening with us. We do hope that we've been able to provide you with some really useful information to help you all make some of those decisions and support your children on this journey. There was, lots of links that were placed in the chats, and again, please, look at the contact information and check out the website, and, don't feel you can't, reach out and ask for some help if you need that. The department staff are always there to support you. So you will be directed to a survey at the end of this webinar, and we really would appreciate your feedback on tonight's webinar. The recording of this webinar will also be available in approximately 1 week on our website. And you'll also just receive an email notifying you of this. So again, thank you all for joining us this evening. Good night, and enjoy the rest of your night.